sides of the conversation, man. Y'all know wherever the people be, this is what we be. We at City Hall, talk about Dream Keeper Initiative, we talk about reparations. That's check. Y'all know the harm. Y'all know what's happening in our city. It's time to repair. It's time to fix what's broken, man. Both sides of the conversation. Y'all know we always part of that movement, man. We here with the Dream Keeper Initiative to make sure that our supervisors, we understand they can't touch what's been brought to us. They cannot remove what's been given to us. They cannot criticize what's been done today to change happen. We're going to do it, represent Dream Keeper, keeping the dream alive, pushing forward, making sure Black joy, Black excellence, Black opportunities keep thriving here in San Francisco. Both sides of the conversation, y'all. Y'all know what it is. We out here with the people.
March on to change is happening under the sun. Adjust to newness showing out of ancient form. The firmament produces what they want. March on.
Super excited and supportive of all the energy around reparations, you know what I mean? And just hearing more and more about how important that is and putting that in context, just showing like, you know, our people coming out for something. You know, we need to rally around something. So it's about the money that's gonna bring us together. You know what I mean? Let's keep it going. So that's where I'm at with it. But I'm looking forward to hearing from a lot of the people that's part of the reparations committee that's been doing a lot of deep dive research and kind of can put it more in context to help me understand it and take it back to my people and be able to articulate what it is we out here, you know, fighting. My name is Kevin Epps, and I'm a San Francisco-based filmmaker.
All over the earth now is the resource performer. The coltan make the cells as changes microprocessor. As they protect the oil, the wheat and the corn. March on, march on.
Editor-in-Chief of the Baby newspaper, the Ministry of Information, JR. We here supporting Black people in San Francisco getting reparations. We coming to see what's going on. We're coming to amplify the voice of the people. So I'm just here supporting Priya, Harrison, Big Don, and a lot of my Frisco peoples that, you know, have been oppressed and ancestors have been oppressed locally by this community. Getting our fight back money. So that's what we on today.
March on. Same so how the knowledge must march on. As many nations stuck in the obsoleted farms. And it's modern innovations people want. As uncivil nations pass them on. And heap it up on them class warfare scorn. Living affluence and well adorned.
Decided to really have this rally about reparations so the Board of Supervisors can look at the latest recommendations before we get the final recommendations in June. But we will achieve reparations here in San Francisco. We'll keep fighting together to make sure that that happens.
March on. So someone's come to take the bull by the horn and change the situation to better half. March on. March on. March on. Righteous man in a crown of thorn, because he refuses to say what they want, to stand firm and to face the whole onslaught. March on.
It's a privilege to be the chair of the African American Reparations Advisory Council, Eric McDonald, native San Franciscan, and this is a momentous, monumental moment where San Francisco is finally on the precipice of making good on the debt it owes to Black San Franciscans. And so we're excited to be here. We're going to present. We don't need to make the case, as Supervisor Walton said, but we want to present the evidence that says you owe us, and then expect for them to take action.
As the change is happening under the sun, adjust to newness showing out of ancient form. The firmament produces what they want. March on, march on.
Peace, power, and creative prosperity. My name is Malik Seneferu. I'm a fourth generation San Franciscan. You know, I'm here a part of Black San Francisco on a very important occasion to me, which is Black reparations. It has been something that I've always driven in my career as an artist. I've done things like street murals that we did back in 2019. in Double Rock. We did Reparations Now in Richmond as well. And it is something that I still continue to try to move with our young people. So I'm just very glad that this is an opportunity for us to be more closer than more than just a bag, but building our community.
March on, all over the earth now is the resource performer. Generations reaching strong and broad. How many obedient to the works of the Lord? If we want to see the world topography transform, march on.
Dr. Carolyn Ransom Scott here for Reparation Rally and here for the meeting with the Board of Supervisors, not just because it's a crowd, not just because it's a rally day, not just because it's a request, but because over 200 years we have suffered, we have gone through, we have given and never stopped, and with all of the suffering, displacement, lack of housing, jobs, and substandard education, we still manage to be the inventors, the innovators that have carried this world, caused this nation to be the greatest, most powerful nation in the world with our designs and engineering. We are the ones that gave blood plasma. We're the ones that gave the air conditioning. We're the ones that gave all of the fire department's equipment and the pole they even slide down. The African American heart stent came from Eric Williams, who lived on 3rd and Palouse here in San Francisco, saving today that stent for the heart, millions of lives, and still persevering to make life better, more meaningful, safer for this world and the community around us.
March on. Have to be receptive to the world youth storm. They're bringing in changes with the dawn. March on, march on, march on, march on.
My people, my beautiful people. Damian Posey, SF Native, man, up here, City Hall, fighting hard, long and strong. What we got to do? Reparations. Like many of the speakers said, this is a debt owed. We're not asking for no handout. You know what I mean? We're not begging. We're demanding what's owed to us from our ancestors working so hard building up this beautiful country that it also belongs to us. We just asking for what's owed to us so that we can get on track after all these many years, man.
March on, march on, march on to the changes happening under the sun. Adjust to newness showing out of ancient forms. The firmament is what produces what they want. The heavens declare the glory of Jah. March on, march on.
American Reparations Advisory Committee. I'm also a co-founder of San Francisco Black Wall Street. I want to thank you all for standing with us today, even in the rain, to demand justice for Black San Franciscans. Before we begin, I want to start with an ancestral acknowledgement. We honor the gifts, resilience, and sacrifices of our Black ancestors, particularly those who toiled the land and built the institutions that established this city's wealth and freedom, despite never being compensated nor fully realized their own sovereignty. We acknowledge this exploitation of not only labor, but of our humanity. And through this process are working to repair some of the harms done by public and private actors. Because of their work, we are here and we will invest in the descendants of their legacy. This is a historic moment. Today at 2 p.m., the chair of the African American Reparations Advisory Committee and I will present on the draft report that the community has labored on for the past 18 months that has over 110 recommendations on how to repair the harm done to Black San Franciscans. We understand that this issue of the harms done against Black San Franciscans have been politicized, criticized, and weaponized but that will not stop us from holding the city and county of San Francisco responsible for repairing the harm done to our community.
Every voice and sing until earth and heaven ring.
Amen.
Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the presence has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day, it has begun. Let us march on. Let us march on. Let us march on. Put those fists in the air. Let us march on. Let us march on until victory is won.
Thank you so much, Sister Janice. I want to just set the tone real quickly for why we're here. We've heard a lot of critics, and even some of you may be questioning, why would we be seeking reparations for Black San Franciscans? Many folks often say that California and San Francisco specifically did not enslave Black people. And so there's lots of history that obviously needs to be researched, and I'm putting that responsibility on all of you to do that. Not only by listening to the committee in our conversations and reading the report, but also looking at historic documents and other things that will give you a reference on how Black folks came here and the harms that we've experienced. But I'm a second generation native Black San Franciscan. And like many of us who are here, my family migrated after fleeing racial terror in the segregated South. We came here and took jobs in labor. Many of us exploited, many of us displaced over the years through redlining and gentrification, urban renewal, and other discriminatory processes. And even while coming here to San Francisco, still experienced segregation, still were denied access to restaurants and bars, homes, the opportunity to rent and build and start businesses. And many of you point to the wonderful history of some of our neighborhoods in San Francisco, like the Western Addition, what we refer to as Fillmore, and the Harlem of the West. Well, those neighborhoods were created out of necessity because Black folks were still not welcomed here in this city. And so we created our own enclaves and neighborhoods. And we found our own ways and our own paths, but that did not mitigate the harm done to us. We still experience to this day the effects of the racial wealth gap. We still experience to this day the challenges brought to us in our education system that are specifically harming Black students in this city. We still experience it through the criminal justice system, in which many of our men, women, and children have been trafficked through, in the child welfare system. And we could go on. The real reason why we're here is because as a native San Franciscan, and I think many of you would agree, that what we know about our cities, when we want to do something, we can move mountains. San Francisco has proved that time and time again for its communities here. It will enact or change policy and legislation. It will move hundreds of millions of dollars in the city budget. It will change a narrative. It will make things happen. We are here today because we expect that it will do the same for Black San Franciscans.
Yay!
I have to tell you, I'm not a good rally speaker because I cuss a lot. Because I cuss a lot and I tell the truth. And I want you to know that in this process of truth telling, we have received death threats. We have received criticism, not just from external forces, but even within our own community. Because we have been challenged with the audacity to hope to believe that we can make this real in San Francisco. Well, we're here to challenge San Francisco to make this real. Because we know you can. I have our District 10 Supervisor standing next to me, who I want to thank from the bottom of our heart, and I know our community does as well. Supervisor Shimon Walton, the former president of the Board of Supervisors, who took it upon himself during his term in office to enact legislation to create this body, because he wholeheartedly believes that justice is deserved for Black San Franciscans. So I want to hand it over to Supervisor Walton.
Thank you, Tanish. Good afternoon, Black San Francisco. Good afternoon, allies. So first I want to say thank you to my colleagues who are standing here with me today, Supervisor Melgar, Supervisor Preston, because it is very important to remember that this reparations task force, this reparations work, was set up by this Board of Supervisors in a unanimous vote to make sure that reparations happens for San Francisco right here in our own community for Black San Franciscans. Today is a very monumental day for Black San Francisco. Historic. And if you are here today, you understand the importance of unity. You understand the importance of us working together as a community to make sure we not only get this task force in place, to make sure we not only have the legislation in place, but that we actually achieve true reparations here in San Francisco. The only way we are going to do that is if we do just like advertised. That fist that you see on the flyers, that fist that you see on all the posts, we need that fist to stay together in this fight. As Tanish said, we have people in our own community standing against us. We have organizations in our own community standing against us. But you know what? God and unity prevails always. So there's no greater weapon for us than to stand together in unity. I have to emphasize that because you see the death threats. You see the racist emails. You see the racist phone calls. And that's going to continue. So we all have to be bold enough to stand together, even if it means removing our ego from the equation. We cannot do this by ourselves. There is no one person that can accomplish this, especially in a city with a small but very mighty Black population. And I want everyone to understand, this is not about whether the Black community is owed reparations. This is about what we are going to receive to repair the harm from the damage that has been done to our community. There is 100% precedent for reparations here in this country. 100% precedent. Now, I do not believe that the Japanese community received their just due. I do not believe that the Native American community received their just due. but most certainly they received a formal reparations right here in this country. So you cannot tell me that black people are crazy. You cannot tell me that we just have our hand out after we had to endure hundreds of years of free labor. Hundreds of years. The wealth that some people experience in this country is traced directly back to those hundreds of years of free labor provided by the black community. The inequities that exist as a result of us being brought to this country, raped, murdered, forced to work for free, not allowed to receive an education, taking our language, stopping us from being able to reproduce, except for to provide free labor. There is no way you can transfer wealth and receive equity when something like that happens to your community for more than 100 of years. So I want everyone to realize what today is about. It is historical because we are going to have a real discussion publicly and formally at the Board of Supervisors. We're going to look at the recommendations from the Reparations Task Force. We're going to have a discussion about it at the Board of Supervisors. We're going to hear from all of you, all of community. We're going to hear from the task force members, and I want to thank every single member of the task force for dedicating their time, being committed to achieving reparations. They were asked to look at the injustices suffered by the black community. They were asked to come up with recommendations on how we address those inequities that have existed because of the harm to the black community. And it's our job at the Board of Supervisors and the leadership of this city to come up with the resources to fund the strategies that we feel we can achieve as a city. And so I want to thank all of you for standing with us today, because it is important that people see and understand that we don't have to continue to make a case for reparations. It's time for us to receive reparations. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Walton. Next, I'd like to invite up my counterpart and our fearless leader of the San Francisco African American Reparations Advisory Committee, Chair Eric McDonald.
Black San Francisco, are you here? Yeah! Black San Francisco, are you here?
Yeah!
Allies, are you here? Yeah! We appreciate you. I was born November 25th, 1964 at San Francisco General Hospital. And all of my life, this city has been the tale of two cities. One city where the rich get richer, and another city where black and others have struggled. And all of that time has perpetuated the harms that have been perpetrated on black folks and the black community. Every effort we have made to stand on our own, to make paths for ourselves, to create our own opportunities of wealth accumulation, every effort has been regularly and consistently and intentionally thwarted. Every effort to make our way, we simply said, leave us alone, we can do this. But every single time, those efforts were thwarted. And so this day has been a long time coming. This day has been a long time coming. 250 years of slavery, 90 years of Jim Crow, 60 years of separate but equal, 35 years of racist housing policy, decades of urban removal of black folks in San Francisco, redlining and discrimination. This has been a long time coming. And so here we are again, San Francisco, at the precipice of an opportunity. This is not the first time San Francisco has seized the opportunity to be in the front of the social justice movement.
We've done it over the decades, and here we are again. But let's be clear that each one of those moments didn't come because the city offered. Each one of those moments came because we decided to take. We decided to reclaim what was rightfully ours: civil rights, access, and opportunity, and all of the ways that we can ensure that our community can do what it does best, which is shine bright. We know black joy, we know black power, we know black resilience, we know black art, we know black culture, we know how to be. We just want the opportunity to be. And so as we bring forward to the Board of Supervisors and the city this opportunity, and I do say an opportunity, for the city to own fully its culpability in the harm perpetrated on black folks since its inception. And the committee, and I'm so grateful to our entire committee, the committee has worked hard not to offer what we think is feasible. Let me be clear. We didn't do this work to say, do you think you can afford this? Our charge was to chronicle the harm and then assign the value. I'll say it again, our charge was to chronicle the harm and then assign the value. And now we can talk about what the city will ultimately do, which is a separate and distinct conversation. And so I'll leave you with this. We have not come this far to give up now. We've not fought this hard to turn around now. We've experienced too much. It's been too long. And I remember my mother, who sung us through everything. She would regularly say, son, it's gonna be hard, but you've got to keep moving. And every time she would pause to try and remind me of that, she would sing something like this. She would say, I don't feel no waste time. I've come too far from where I started from. Nobody told me that the road would be easy. I don't believe he brought me this far. I don't believe he brought me this. One more time, I don't believe he brought me this far to leave me. Let's do this, Black San Francisco.
Amen, church. I want to also welcome one of our elders, and I say this with great respect because I know that you all will read the news. I know you all will watch and see as things unfold. And as much as we are a family united, we may all have a diversity of opinions, but one thing we are all united on: Black San Francisco will get what it deserves. And we will all see it through. So I want to invite, with respect and love, Reverend Dr. Amos Brown, who is a member of our ARAC and also a member of the State of California Reparations Commission.
All right.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice Chair of this august body. A task force that came into being because there was a myriad expressions of involvement of people of different persuasions, understandings, and experiences. I am a history buff, and I believe in keeping the record. For we would not be here this day had not many of us knew what I learned a long time ago, that San Francisco and the state of California were born in that original sin of racism, conceived in iniquity. Why? Because the first governor of this state, a man named Peter Hartman Burnett, an arch racist from the state of Tennessee. He came over the Oregon Trail in 1843. And what was his major stipulation for that trail? No blacks or mulattoes would be permitted to be a part of the trail. After that rascal got up to the state of Oregon, what did he do? He settled a town called Germantown. Again, he continued his madness of being a racist. He established an ordinance, not how to build a cabin, not how to build a road, but his first ordinance, my friend, was any black or mulatto who's caught in this town would be beaten every 6 months until he or she left town. If you don't believe me, check it out through the convenience of the internet. When gold was struck up there around Sutter's Field, he decided that he would leave Oregon, and he came down to California, and he settled up there and was slick and sleazy enough to get involved in the political process, and he evolved to become the first governor of this state. And that rascal made his first agenda item, trying to get through the Assembly and the Senate, an ordinance stating no blacks would be permitted to settle in California. Unfortunately, he didn't get it through, but he kept on working. For when he had to leave office in disgrace, he was the Donald Trump of that day, a troubled businessman too. What happened? He was slick and sleazy enough to get on the Supreme Court of the state of California. And there came up during that period in 1857, when a young man from the state of Mississippi, the state that this dear lady's father, Charlie Walker, came from, the state that I came from, when that case came up, the civil rights case of the West, it involved a young black boy, 19 years old, named R.C. Lee. What was the case about? Charles Stovall, a mad racist, wanted to take R.C. Lee back to Mississippi as an enslaved person, though California was entered into this union as a free state in 1850. The long and short of it is, friends, it was Burnett who voted with the minority to send R.C. Lee back to Mississippi. I say again, it's been in the DNA. So don't let you take this thing lightly, for it's still in the veins of the city and county of San Francisco. Our population has fallen from 16% down to a million mile 4%. In San Francisco, the median income for black folks is $30,000 a year, but for white folks, $110,000. For Asians and Hispanics, between $75,000 and $80,000. I come to tell you, my teacher, Dr. King, was right when he said there will never be any wealth until we have the commonwealth for all people.
Hey, hey, yeah.
So let us thank God for this day. But I say the war is not over. We just won a little battle to get this commission established. But I want you to remember that the battle started when in 2019, before that board, the branch of the NAACP established the measure presented to the board. It was Miss Hillary Rodham. It was Hillary, a member of this board. What's the last name? Ronan. That's right, you know it. She was the first one who said, I support Reparations, along with Danny Glover in the room. What I'm saying today, young folks, don't forget your history. Remember where you came from. Remember who laid the foundation for you. Remember who stood up when others wouldn't stand with you. Remember who was there when you needed somebody to be there with you. We're gonna make it, but we gotta be strategic. We gotta be wise. We gotta know how to move. For Willie Brown was right. If you're gonna be successful in this political process, you better know how to count. And we better know how to count. I've been counting. And I tell you right now, one of the members of the board said, and I'm not gonna call his name now, I'm not for any money. I'm for programs. I respected him, but I kept on counting. But thanks be to God, we got somebody here. Our very supervisor from District 5. Come on. Brother, what is his name? D. Preston. D. Preston. He supports reparation. I could call the roll and let you know we got to still keep on counting until we get to all of them unanimously saying that they're going to support black folks getting health care. We are the sickest in this town. We live 68 years, less than the majority culture. I don't believe God intended for anybody to be on my time. I'm 82 now, and I'm still kicking. And I ain't no ways tired. I'm gonna fight on. I'm gonna serve on. I'm gonna speak on until the day will come when all of God's children will be able to say, I'm black and I'm proud. I'm brown and I'm sound. I'm yellow and I'm mellow. I'm red but I ain't dead. Hey, hey, hey. I'm white and I'm all right. I'm a woman and I'm wise. I'm gay and I'm godly. I'm straight and I'm sensible. I'm an immigrant and I'm industrious. God bless you. Let us be strategic. Let us keep the faith.
Now, I'm not really a fan of standing behind podiums, but today, I want to talk to you about what we're doing here in 2023. So, I don't know how I can go after such a great elder, Dr. Amos Brown. So, can we give it up for him one more time? Thank you. So, in 2023, I am fighting for the same thing George Earl fought for when he disrupted the San Francisco Housing Authority's meeting with the Equal Opportunities Commission in 1966. During that meeting, a San Francisco Housing Authority representative said, "This meeting was is about bonds. We are not going to discuss the Hunters Point problem today." Almost 60 years later, here in San Francisco, history will be made. The question I am proposing to you today is, which side of history will you be on? San Francisco's elected officials have a choice to make history by empowering Black communities and setting a national precedent for justice for Black communities. Or they have a choice to continue the erasure of Black San Francisco. At a point in time, as Dr. Brown stated, Black San Franciscans here existed at numbers as high as 16%. We had thriving Black communities with neighborhoods that were filled with thriving business economies, home ownership, and tons of social capital. However, in the 1950s, the federal government and the state government gave tons of money for urban renewal in communities such as the Fillmore. So what that did to us is it completely wiped out the Fillmore, labeled it as blighted, and caused citizens in the city, Black citizens, to move elsewhere in the southern eastern parts of the city and also outside of the city. So that's why we're seeing Black erasure today. In addition, it pushed San Franciscans to live in the southeastern parts of the city where we know it's toxic. So our communities are living near toxic waste. Like Dr. Brown said, we have the lowest life expectancy rates. We have the highest number of infant mortality. We have the highest number of asthma rates and cancer rates in our neighborhoods. So when we ask for reparations, that's what we're asking them to fix. We're asking them to clean up the neighborhoods. We're asking for resources to develop healthcare to address systemic issues that have existed in our neighborhoods for decades. As I stated before, George Earl asked for resources to rebuild places like Alice Griffin that were experiencing high poverty rates and high death rates. So what we're doing here today is asking the same thing. Which side of history will you be on? Will you be with the change makers? Will you be with the people who bring justice to San Franciscans? Or will you sit idle and stand in silence against reparations? Let us know today.
City of San Francisco, I want you to know that our young people are watching you. And you are being recorded in history. Your silence is being noted. Your silence is noted, but not ignored. I want to invite up another native San Franciscan whose family has a historic legacy here in the city to talk about the impact of the things that Ariane mentioned on our daily lives, but also the future that we see. And that is my sister, Mo McNeely.
Woo!
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mo McNeely. I'm an artist, futurist, and proud generational San Franciscan. I believe that dreaming and creating a new world consists of honoring our past accurately, engaging and confronting our present, and visualizing and imagining a new future. I am deeply concerned about the continued population decline of generational Black San Franciscans such as myself. According to the San Francisco Human Rights Commission report, the Black population in the city is the only demographic that has consistently declined since its height of 13.4 in 1970 to the 5% still in the city today. It is my fervent belief that we need now more than ever to imagine ourselves in the future of San Francisco, enabling us to view our current reality as something that can be reconstructed now to the benefit of all communities. With so many wealthless people in our community, we need transformative change for our collective brighter future. Only reparations can do this. There are a lot of misconceptions about reparations. It is not only atonement for slavery. 40 acres and a mule was promised during the time of my great-grandparents. Had the government honored Special Field Order 15, my grandmother would have had a completely different outcome. Instead, she was listed as a 6-year-old sharecropper in Mississippi on the 1900 census. My father, who grew up in the heyday of lynching, fled the horrors of the Jim Crow South. He was drafted into World War II to fight Nazis, moved to California in the 1950s, only to be redlined to the Lakeview district of San Francisco and paid less wages than his white counterparts in education. My siblings and I, as many of you, have lived through the ongoing war on drugs in San Francisco, saw urban renewal rip out the last remaining families and businesses out of the Fillmore, our friends, our family, our community.
Thank you.
Our community has faced ongoing racism and discrimination in San Francisco in the areas of banking, education, housing, politics, policies, and policing in the workplace, and we have yet to receive justice for these harms. Black Americans in San Francisco and across the country were legally excluded from economic wealth building programs like the Homestead Act, the GI Bill, the New Deal, and Federal Housing Administration mortgages, just to name a few. These were the racist public policies that created the wealth gap and allowed the racial wealth gap to widen and flourish. In addition to these exclusions, Black Americans in this city were legally targeted for harms such as convict leasing, white domestic terrorism, eminent domain, racially restrictive covenants, redlining, the war on drugs, mass incarceration, medical experimentation, and educational apartheid. Those harms still exist today. The badges of slavery still exist, and they follow us. These harms are included in our case for reparations. Harmful false stereotypes that Black Americans are lazy, unintelligent, and prone to criminality were the foundation of the public policies that created the conditions that we are in today. And it is public policies like reparations that must be implemented to begin to correct these harms. There must be sweeping systemic changes. There is no amount of saving, no amount of small business savvy, no amount of educational advancement that can combat the effects of racist public policies that are keeping us in poverty. I am calling upon the elected officials of the city. You must be brave and courageous to stand up for us even when it's hard.
Copy that.
Reparations is not a charity nor a pittance. It is a debt that is owed.
Copy that.
It is an economic public policy rooted in a righteous justice claim for the of lineage Black American community. In the book From Here to Equality, Dr. William Sandy Darity states, the failure to pay a debt in a timely fashion does not extinguish the obligation, particularly since the consequences of past injustice continue to be visited upon the descendants of the direct victims. A national act of procrastination does not eliminate the debt. Whether it is through this San Francisco Reparations Task Force, the California Reparations Task Force, or the Federal Reparations Task Force, which is on the horizon. In the words of the most misquoted and mischaracterized leader of the civil rights movement, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., we are coming to get our check.
My sister Mo McNeely, AKA Mo 5 Milli. Cut the check. We are almost to the end. I want to cut the check. Keep that energy when we get into the board chambers. I want to invite up, family, I want to invite up our next speaker. Hey. I want to invite up another esteemed elder in our community, another historian who has lived generations in San Francisco, our Reverend Dr. Aurelius Walker.
Ladies and gentlemen of the San Francisco community, I am Aurelius Walker. I pastored the True Hope Church Ministry in this city for around 56 years. Today, ladies and gentlemen, as I move, this isn't exciting. The information Dr. Brown gave and the committee gave. It's the time for the Board of Supervisors. And let me say this, I've been keeping up with this, articles in the newspapers and all of that. And in that one article that was written said that the president of the present Board of Supervisors is for reparation, Mr. Aaron Peskin. Let me also say that today I am 92 years old. I am a ex-sharecropper. I was raised as a sharecropper in East Texas. We had no rights. Racism was the order of the day. But I made up my mind. I'm as good as an individual, and I'm not going to let nobody mitigate or do anything. I am as good a man as anybody else. I made that decision on my own. So in turn, what happened was, because my grandfather being a sharecropper is next to a slave, because you never get out of debt. When it come to the boys going to get an education, they would not allow that. We had to work in the field. But I made that decision. So in turn, what happened was that I went to the military, came out of the military, honorable discharge, and I went to Barber College and got, got that master's license, came to San Francisco. Now, one is that I want the Board of Supervisors to know the decision, one of the main decisions in your hand, to make the decision that reparation is not a gift, it is an unmeant from the African American community. So I'm here today. This Board of Supervisors have named a street after me. It's Aurelius Walker Drive. And not only that, Wells Fargo Bank, when I got ready to build a professional church building, it was a red line area in the Double Rock area. And I told them that if they do not release the fund to do that, that I was going to ask all the members to draw out of that bank. We were going to do the same. So the next day they came and we eradicated the red line in Bayview Hunters Point. So in turn, the Board of Supervisors in your hand. The governor of California was the one that agreed and organized and put together the first committee on reparation. Our governor did. So in turn, if he did that, then I know the supervisors can do their job. I know that Simone Walton, I know Eric Paskin, and all of those are going to do the job. Why don't we give them a hand for it? Believe it's going to happen.
We just heard from an elder who is 92 years old. 93. Amen. I want to say to our elders, we will not let you down. The question has been asked over and over again and will be asked many times today. Will we see reparations in our lifetime? The answer is hell yes. In fact, we expect to see reparations delivered this year, this budget cycle. Not next year, not 2024, not 2034, right now, in our lifetime. And in order for that to happen, we not only need to have the investment of San Francisco leadership, we need to have the belief of black people in San Francisco. We need to have the audacity to believe that if we say we want $5 million, they need to cut the damn check. And we don't have to provide the evidence because you've heard it. You live it every single day. We will not be undermined or belittled because since the moment the draft report was released, you've been hyper-focused on the fact that we had the audacity to be black and say that we deserve justice and put any dollar amount to it. I don't give a damn if it's 500, 500,000, or 5 million. We are here for the check. I have a couple more things I want to say because I want y'all to keep that energy inside. Oh, that's right. To our elders, we won't let you down. To our disabled community members, we did not forget you. To our LGBTQ brothers and sisters and non-binary people, you will not be left out. Every single black San Franciscan will be included in what we are attempting to do in this city. To our young people who are the culture of San Francisco and walk through schools every single day where their culture is mocked and weaponized against them and they cannot dare to be black if they choose to. We are not going to forget you. To those of us who sacrifice our lives every day serving our community and have to live through the same terror in our own homes. This year it ends. We deserve every resource we need, not just damn programs, to live and participate in the wealth of this city. You've heard the brilliance on this stage. We've been asked many times, what are your credentials? My credentials is that I'm black and I'm from here. And that's enough. And I want you to know that that's enough for you too. That's enough for you too. To the women and the mothers, the grandmothers, the aunties, our village keepers, thank you for holding and carrying us all. To our black men, you are essential. You are essential and you are precious and you are valuable. And you are our strength and our power, and we cannot and will not do this without you. We will not let your role be minimized in this movement. But I want you to know that in order for us to do it, we got to remain family. And we got to learn how to let in-house business be in-house business. See, some of y'all's new. I ain't new. My grandparents came from the South. And we was raised that in-house business stayed in-house. So there's going to be a lot of disagreements as we go along in this process about how we get to where we're going. But we are not going to negotiate on what is due to us in our city. So I ask y'all to continue to be patient with each other and understand that the trauma that we've all experienced is living in and through us every single day. That we don't personalize what happens as we go through this process, but we take personal the future that we have in front of us. See, the problem is that we so busy surviving, we never have time to dream. We never have time to create the replacement for the harm that we've all had to survive through every single day. But somehow we still do it. Somehow we still do it. Somehow our babies still dance. Somehow we still show up and feed our people. Somehow, when there's an emergency, we don't call 911, we call each other. I don't want you to forget that. Because in this process, it'll be very easy to run everything that we're fighting for back into government. Be very clear that what we're calling for is that government run the resources back into our hands. So I ask you that if you join us this afternoon, that you come prepared. And if you are watching the hearing later, that you get on and you do public comment. I encourage you to go and read the very lengthy but very important draft report. I encourage you to show up and participate at our monthly meetings, but more importantly, get into these subcommittees. Sit down and meet with those of us who are working to make sure these recommendations are sound, and then work with us to apply pressure on the city of San Francisco to cut that check that we deserve. So I want to thank you all, and I'm going to let Jamil lead you in the chat, because reparations takes many forms, but today we here for the damn money. Cut the check. 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 Cut the check.
I guarantee you, if they was going to give $1 trillion to the Ukraine, nobody be saying anything, right? Let's make America great again and invest in Americans, right? We San Franciscans, right? I want y'all to say something and repeat after me. Black people contributed to San Francisco. Say it again. Right, so let's get up in here to represent. I'm proud of all the San Franciscans that's black and even not black that showed up. Investing in us is an investment in the city. And say it after me. Investing in us is an investment in the city. Unite the city. Cut the check. 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 Keep it going. Louder. Cut the check. Cut the check. Cut the check. Cut the check.
Direct deposit.
Reparation Task Force. So, I represent the seat for those who are previously incarcerated.
Yeah.
So the goal is how do we get our retribution? How do we get the repair that we need, especially from San Francisco, for all the things that has happened? So we just got to properly prepare for what's coming. You know what I mean? We know there's going to be a lot of people who not going to want us to have reparations, and we just can't give up the fight. You know what I mean? Ask for the most to settle for what we really need, you know? And if you ain't got no fight in you or no stick-to-itness, get out the way.
You dead already.
Right. You already lost.
You dead. You ain't got no fight, nothing in you. You're dead already.
Right.
Your commitment, dedication to reparation, for being here today in respect. Thank you so much for all of your work and making sure that your voices are heard through this process. to thank my colleagues for your unanimous support of the Reparations Committee formation, for supporting the work of the Dream People Initiative, and for supporting this committee as a whole today. I also want to send a sincere thanks to the entire Reparations Task Force, chaired by Eric McDonald and vice chaired by Denise Holland. I want to thank all of you for your work in your community, as well as the Human Rights Commission under Director Cheryl Davis and Dreamkeeper Initiative Director Dr. Saida Leatutu Birch. This work is serious, and everyone who has taken the time to repair the harm that has been done to Black people in this city and across the country should be commended. I must say on the record that members of this committee, the Human Rights Commission, my office, and team have received not only some of the most racist and disgusting commentary, but also actual threats on this reparation. Reparations has been a discussion and topic in this country since the end of slavery. We have a few communities who have actually received some form of reparation. And in my opinion, not enough was done for those communities. But there is no excuse for some of the responses that everyone committed to this work has had to endure. The creation of this Reparations Advisory Committee was an historical event. We now have to continue to step up to ensure that we not only improve outcomes for Black people in San Francisco, but also that we repair the damage of the past and make compensation tangible. In order to overturn negative outcomes and create generational wealth, it is not a matter of whether or not there is a case for reparations for Black people here in San Francisco. It is a matter of what reparations will and should look like. Yet and still we have to remind everyone why this is so important. You may not understand the need for reparations in San Francisco until you understand that Black children, even in San Francisco, were not allowed to be taught, and yet Black families paid taxes for the education of those children. You may not understand reparations in San Francisco unless you understand that fully Black neighborhoods and communities were created without the benefit of representation. You may not understand reparations until you read the racial restrictions that stated no property at any time should be sold, conveyed, rented, or leased to any person or persons not of the white or Caucasian race. The denial of home loans may make you understand better. The out-migration and gentrification of our community. These and many other injustices are a direct correlation to some of the negative outcomes and income disparities that exist and plague the Black community right here in San Francisco to this day. And just for some other historical frame of reference, and to demonstrate that reparations has been provided in its present day. 1946, U.S.-Japanese reparations agreement, $500 million. 1831, U.S.-Cherokee Treaty of New Echo, $5 million. 1868, U.S.-Cheyenne Treaty of Fort Laramie, $3 million. 1877, U.S. Sioux Treaty of Fort Laramie, $15 million. 1897, U.S. Climate Treaty of 1897, $20 million. 1988, U.S. Native Hawaiian Land Claims Settlement Act, $1.2 billion. 2017, Warsaw Reparations Agreement between the U.S. and Poland, $8.2 billion to Poland. Those are just a few examples, President. Today we are here to receive an update, I repeat, an update on the work of the Reparations Task Force, and to hear about their latest recommendations and plans in the areas of economic empowerment, education, health, and all areas where specific policies have led to negative outcomes for Black people here in San Francisco. We will not let people outside of this city or people who wish to increase the level of harm for our communities deter us from doing what is right. We are here to learn about all of the recommendations, not just one, but all. I want everyone to keep in mind that the final report is not due until the middle of this year, where we will receive the final recommendations from the committee. We are not here today to say what recommendations we will be supporting on moving forward. There is much work that still needs to be done. We will also be receiving an update on the great work of the Dream Keeper Initiative, which is an investment in place to ensure more positive outcomes for the Black community here in this city. There are some great things happening under this work, and we all need to know how we can actually continue to make an impact with targeted and focused support. The success of the Dream Keeper Initiative demonstrates what a tangible investment can achieve, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. Today, we will hear from the Human Rights Commission, members of the Reparations Task Force, and the Dream Keeper Initiative team. I know we have Dr. Director Davis, Dr. Saida Leatutu Birch, Eric McDonald, and Tanish Hollins from the Reparations Task Force, and Ms. Brittany Chiquata from the Human Rights Commission team as well. They will be presenting on all of the latest recommendations of the Reparations Task Force and the latest outcomes of the Dream Keeper Initiative. Now, for the painful part, due to anticipated and known number of speakers, we are going to have 1 minute for public comment for the entire hearing. I do want to say that I appreciate you all coming out, but we want to make sure everyone's voice is heard. And now we will bring up Human Rights Commission Director, Dr. Cheryl Davis.
President Peskin, as well as the entire board, for making time to hear this and to hear from the community. Special thanks and appreciation for Supervisor Walton. I think it's often difficult to be in leadership position because you get it from every side. Nobody's really happy, and it always could be done better, and so I just appreciate that you continue to show up for community and continue to be the voice that is challenged, but also challenging others. Today, we are here to, I think most importantly, hear from community and be able to get that feedback, but I just want to say a couple things at the outset, right? That we are here to talk about Dream Keeper Initiative and reparations, and we want to make very clear that they're not the same thing. In the Black community was a result of what we saw happening during 2020 that Black people knew was happening since birth, that it wasn't new to folks, the things that we saw on TV or on social media, but that it was a reality that had been normalized in the Black community. And so in response to that, and as a way to say all across the country, people were making commitments to invest and to understand and to do something that says we see you and we recognize and acknowledge the consistent pain that Black folks experience. Supervisor Walton and Mayor Breed made this allocation of $60 million. So we do not want to hear at the end, we've already given reparations because $60 million has been invested. I'm excited today because I think that we made this investment with the idea that we had 60 community meetings. We heard from thousands of people, and we were able to whittle that down to say, like, how do we actualize getting the money out? And although we all believed that we shouldn't have to show what the impact was, that we shouldn't have to go through these metrics, that it did happen. And I'm really grateful that Dr. Sai, when invited to be director of the Dream Keeper Initiative, accepted. So thank you so much, Sai. To show that if you make an investment, that it actually does make a difference. Even if it's just a smile on somebody's face, or even if it is about somebody being able to die with dignity and be housed and not on the streets. To Dr. Sai, I really hope that folks will listen and see the commitment that we have to show that when you recognize the humanity of all people, especially Black people, all of San Francisco benefits.
Just briefly, and I know this is an extremely exciting day for all of us. We do need to, when we are excited about what people say, maybe do our spirit in, or make sure. I would love you to follow, trust me, you know I'm with you. But we need to follow more rules and make sure that we can get through this game. But thank you so much for the love and support. Dr. Leah,
thank you, Supervisor Walton, and thank you for emphasizing that Black joy comes in all forms. So with that, good afternoon, supervisors. My name is Dr. Saida Leah Birch, and I am a Black and Indigenous Samoan daughter of this city. I have also the pleasure of serving as a Dream Keeper Initiative with the San Francisco Human Rights Commission. I want to underscore something that Director Davis shared and take you back to 2020 when our allies, our accomplices, our co-conspirators, and Black folks alike, they joined us together to march and to say that Black lives matter and still matter. And Director Davis, Mayor Breed, and Supervisor Walton, they made the investment when corporations in other cities only spoke about it. San Francisco did the talk and did the walk. And so that leads into what I'm going to share today with respect to the Dreamkeeper Initiative and what we envision the Dreamkeeper Initiative as we move forward in the presentation. Envisions an environment where San Francisco's diverse Black communities can experience prosperity and liberation and can imagine a future here in this city. The city that we helped build, that we did build, and that we pay so much to. We do that through investing in ensuring that folks are experiencing joy and feelings of safety, are advancing educationally and economically, and are holistically healthy and thriving. As you can see, the $60 million is allocated here. This work is done in great partnership and managed across 11 different departments that while the Dreamkeeper Initiative is still here, a number of employees still experience and struggle within the workplace, in a workplace that understands Dreamkeeper Initiative as a larger equity initiative. We want to implement trust-based, consistent, and simplified data and impact reporting, not just collecting data for data's sake, but really doing data for the purposes of improving, and then creating a unified set of 10-year impact goals. And then as it relates to all government, DKI approaches across all of city government, leveraging departmental racial equity plans and encouraging departments to absorb programs as a part of their baseline opportunities, something that we always ask and say, if Dreamkeeper Initiative didn't exist, how would you serve Black folks? It should not be that the Dreamkeeper Initiative is here for the city to do what they're already supposed to be doing. And then finally, develop and deliver a skills-building series of anti-racist government local practices for programmatic procurement and grantee support staff within city government. And so I will close with saying the Dreamkeeper Initiative and programs are surely addressing the impact of structural racism amongst San Francisco's diverse Black populations. However, the scale of investment is still not enough. The Dreamkeeper Initiative is beginning to create new opportunities for Black-led and Black-serving organizations to secure public funding. And the approach in DKI's approach into how other cities, parts of city government work to improve these other parts of government, partner with and prioritize the communities that government has marginalized. The success achieved thus far is certainly worthy of celebration, yet it is necessary for the city of San Francisco to grow beyond point-in-time progress and to institutionalize long-term sustainable success for Black San Franciscans. Thank you.
Just so you know, we're here, the Dreamkeeper Initiative report, we're here from the Reparations Committee.
So we are about to hear next from the Reparations Advisory Committee, and so I just wanted to come back again. First and foremost, thank Dr. Sy and the whole Dreamkeeper Initiative team for their work and dedication to kind of make sure. A lot of folks have been here for the out-migration report, that have conversations around the unfinished agenda and all the other things, and we really wanted to make sure that this time around that we didn't take a bunch of information and notes and data and say we heard from folks and then the money disappear into the ether. And so we're really grateful for the Dreamkeeper Initiative and that work. And so next is the report and the update from the African American Reparations Advisory Committee. I will say on this kind of weird journey where folks are like, this doesn't belong in San Francisco, or we shouldn't be having these conversations. As somebody who was born in Texas and lived and grew up in the Bay Area, I often say, and I've said this to my mom, I prefer the open racism that I experience in the South versus the covert racism that I experience in the challenge here is for folks not to get bogged into like, how are we going to pay for this? The question is like, why we need to do this? And I think that the committee has spent a lot of time and energy and investing. And I would also challenge this idea that it's just about reparations. I would say that any time, and I've heard this from Reverend Brown and other folks, but anytime we talk about making an actual, tangible, really heartfelt investment in the Black community, there's Black backlash. I say that because folks have talked about reparations and what we've heard with that, and how that's come up and the things that we will have. And when we introduced the Dreamkeeper Initiative and talked about a fellowship for public safety, we got so much backlash on investing in public safety and prioritizing Black people to the point where staff had to call the chief because I actually somebody told me, how about if they just came to my office and put a gun in my face, would I pay them to take it away? And so we kind of take for granted that it doesn't happen here, but the investment that we did for Dreamkeeper as well as reparations has brought out the worst in people. And it has proven why we have to have these conversations, because we think we're safe here, but we're not. And I think that is the hard part to get through. That when somebody working for the city and county of San Francisco says, how do we do better? How do we make the space safer? And we end up with 10 actual threats where we had to call the police out to go to places where people said they were going to come, and they felt safe enough to actually give their location. Like, there is a problem. And so I think the work that I say all of that to say, sometimes folks may see me just as the person that works for the city, but I want to remind everybody, Black and otherwise, that I am Black. I was born Black. I've lived my whole life Black. I have a Black son here, and so when I talk about this work, yes, I have to separate that I am the director of the Human Rights Commission, but the truth of the matter is when you are walking down the street, nobody knows what your job is. And so when we see the conviction, when we come into this work, everybody has invested, and I think they just want to be respected, they want to be appreciated, and they want to make sure at the end of the day that the message is heard and that we don't get lost in the amounts of money that people have talked about or the requests that are coming forward, but that we acknowledge and recognize that harm has been done and that somebody needs to pay for that harm. So I will invite you to keep on to that and kick us off. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for the introduction for creating this legislation, and say hello and good afternoon to the members of the Board of Supervisors. And I just want to also give a quick shout out to PCA Pearson and Clerk Calvillo and Clerk Major for all you do to keep these meetings running smoothly. Thank you. So my name is Brittany Chiquata, and I serve as the Director of Economic Rights at the Human Rights Commission. And I'm going to be brief in my remarks, and I welcome our chairs of the Reparations Committee to come up. So each reparations meeting, we begin with an ancestral acknowledgement. We honor the gifts, resilience, and sacrifices of our Black ancestors, particularly those who toiled the land and built the institutions that established this city's wealth and freedom, despite never being compensated nor fully realizing their own sovereignty. We acknowledge this exploitation of not only labor, but of our humanity. And through this process, we are working to repair some of the harms done by public and private actors. Because of their work, we are here and will invest in the descendants of their legacy. So citing international law and the United Nations, the report emphasizes that when a government is responsible for wrongful actions or negligence that causes injustice to a specific group of people, it has a duty to remedy those actions. The United Nations Conditions of Reparations really outlines that it it's moving forward measures to redress violations of human rights by providing a range of material and symbolic benefits to victims or their families, as well as affected communities. And so this is an ecosystem of reparations. It's not just a one-dimensional action. We're talking about compensation, providing for damages, economic damages, rehabilitation, medical or psychological care or legal services, restitution, which means restoring the victim to their original situation before the violation occurred, and satisfaction, public apologies, commemorations, truth-seeking, and guarantees of non-repetition. So a little bit of background on this work. The San Francisco NAACP first advocated for reparations locally in 2018 and 2019, and Supervisor Walton crafted the legislation to establish this committee and create a reparations plan. And then the HRC was designated the city agency to provide staff support to the ARAC. And I just also want to emphasize, we have been working at the discretion of utilizing pieces of our budget to do outreach, to do communications, to pay for food, to pay for printing, to pay for any support that the committee needed. Additionally, there's been a focus of the ARAC, the Reparations Committee, in both public and private sectors. Lastly, I just want to, as Director Davis and my colleague Dr. Sy touched on a little bit, there's been a bit of confusion about the difference between the Dreamkeeper Initiative and reparations. And so we want to be clear that reparations is about a tailored accountability, a tailored redress for the nature of the initial harm. DKI is a point-in-time investment to end continued harm and underinvestment in Black communities in San Francisco. It makes a good faith effort, it's a bold effort to respond to community demands for improvement in services as equal citizens here in San Francisco. But as my colleague Dr. Sy says, we can't program people out of poverty. And as our elder Reverend Brown says, we need to go back to the scene of the crime and make amends for the wrongs that were done with surgical precision, just as that harm was executed on Black people in San Francisco. Next slide. And so here's a snapshot of the members of the Reparations Committee. Each member has a unique experience and perspective. And just want to emphasize that, although you might see one thing when you look at this, Black people are not monolithic. Our worldviews, the ways that we navigate life while connected by our shared culture and heritage are still unique and individual, and each seat reflects that unique and individual perspective. So the committee's work is split into 4 different pillars, 4 different subcommittees, and that's economic empowerment, education, health, and policy. And then we just wanted to uplift this quote. This cannot take another 25 years, not even 5 years. We need reparations now because this city constructed these issues for Black people, and Black people are hurting. And so while there's absolutely a recognition at the city level to begin repairing and righting wrongs, and we know and acknowledge that under Mayor Breed, the DKI was created, funding has increased for the Latino, Latina community, for Asian communities, and so many other marginalized groups. And the HRC has really been privileged to collaborate with these many city departments to serve as a central department to lead the city's anti-discrimination work. And so that's whether we're talking about OCII, honoring certificates of preference, and the 12,188 people who were displaced through urban renewal, 98% being Black. The work of MOCD to expand housing opportunities through the Down Payment Assistance Loan Program and BMR, below market rate programs. Collaborating with the Department of Public Health to create mental health services for Black San Franciscans, or collaborating with the Planning Department and looking at things like the development of the housing element, which specifically named reparations over 84 times as a policy goal and objective to repair the harms exacted on Black communities in that document. So we know that the city is not just talking about it, and under Mayor Breed, they've been moving this work forward. So this is just a snapshot of where we are in the process, a timeline of where we are. So we're in that dotted circle between our submission of the report before you in December and the final report being due in June. Since June 2021, we've had 22 monthly meetings of the Reparations Committee, with dozens of committee meetings and over 500 unique participants. over 11,000 unique website visits and over 18,000 page views, 200 plus survey respondents, 8 community engagements outside of what I just mentioned. We've appeared in 38 international media publications, and we're here at this public hearing. And so I just wanted to read a couple more quotes, because so much of what we hear from the community members who participate in our meetings is just a sense and feeling of invisibility in our city and really wanting that accountability. So we need better access to data from the health department, from the police department. Policies were created for other communities to make sure they have economic stability and were able to make their own commercial districts, but there aren't comparable policies for our community. Our communities were ineligible to get mortgages, while white and other communities got land for pennies on the dollar because of restrictive covenants. We've told our stories so much, and people are like, enough already. We need to see some movement now. The information with the harm is readily available and documented. When do we get on with it? I've owned a business. I've paid my taxes. I've been displaced from San Francisco. Black families in San Francisco have been destroyed by the foster care system, and victims deserve compensation.
Yes.
San Francisco is a sanctuary city for everyone except for us. So as Supervisor Walton mentioned, we have received a number of calls, emails, pop-up visitors in our office, and I did just want to play a clip from one of them to give you a taste of what we are receiving and just the emotional labor that goes into this work.
You about to show the devil? Diablo.
President Festin, appreciate the invitation and being invited by the board today. So, Eric McDonald, I have the honor and privilege of serving as the chair of the San Francisco African American Reparations Advisory Committee. I am, like many of both our committee as well as the community that has shown up today, I'm a native San Franciscan, proud of it. And yet the reality is my entire life has been living in and experiencing the tale of two cities. A city where many are enabled to thrive, do really well, get rich even. And then a city that also causes, in some cases, enables in many other cases, many to suffer in poverty and discrimination. And so we are here today, and I'm joined by our fantastic Vice Chair, Tanisha Hollins, where we want to lift up for you the draft report and begin to invite you to become co-owners of it. So the author of the book called Cast, Isabel Wilkerson, she said, when you buy a home, you buy and inherit the good and the bad and everything in between that make it livable and sustainable. The house becomes your responsibility to take care of. Whether you built it or not is not really relevant. It's yours now. And you have the opportunity to make it, again, livable and sustainable. So whether you were alive or whether your ancestors were here when the discriminatory decisions we'll describe shortly were made, it is, again, a side matter. You own this house now. And so while we don't intend to indict any one of you personally or individually, you're the owners of the house. And so we are inviting you, again, to become co-owners of this process of redress and all of the harm. I would remind you and thank you at the same time that 2 years ago you stood in these chambers together, unanimously, declaring both the importance of this work and then codifying a charter that stood us up as a committee, for which we are grateful. And now we're back because we have proceeded to do the work that you have charged us with. And we want to, again, invite you into partnership. Next slide, please. And so, what are we even doing here? How did Black
black folks show up in San Francisco? Well, we know the generalized story. It's one certainly that my mother, a 15-year-old young girl who fled the racist, terrorist Jim Crow South and made her way west to San Francisco. And it was in that period of growing opportunity for black folks here on the West that the population boomed in 10 years, all right, and went from about 4,800 to almost 75,000 black folks. And it's important to remember and keep in mind that while there was opportunity, it's not that this opportunity didn't come without cost. When we celebrate the beauty of the Harlem of the West, that wasn't given to black folks. That was created by black folks. It was the result of taking what they had and making the best of it. And they were segregated into the Fillmore, segregated into the Southeast sector, segregated into places, and then they made it work. That's what black folks do. And so we have this coordinated exclusion from housing, from ownership, socializing in non-desirable areas, and strategic and aggressive land dispossession through eminent domain. Next slide, please. And so then the question comes, why reparations in San Francisco? Well, first, targeted repair for targeted actions led by the San Francisco government. And the result of that is over 12,000 families driven out of the city through the redevelopment's intentional displacement, 98% of which were black. Secondly, redress for hostile anti-black policies with ongoing harm. And what this meant was there was redlining, restrictive covenants, urban renewal targeted black people to limit housing choices and wealth opportunities. Ms. Hall.
Good afternoon, President, and to the members of the board. My name is Tanish Hollins. I'm a second-generation Black San Franciscan, and I am the Vice Chair of the African American Reparations Advisory Committee. And I think Chair McDonald did a great job of setting the landscape as we talk about the harm specifically the San Francisco government has enacted against Black San Franciscans here in the city. We talked about redlining and restrictive covenants. We're also talking about government actions that consistently led to the population decline in the city. And that is with the awareness that the majority of San Francisco departments, even to this day, the baseline of their budgets are Black disparities. But somehow, as our budgets continue to increase to address these Black disparities, Black folks have continued to be driven out of our city. And that is our reality. The next slide. San Francisco has systematically prevented Black people from accumulating, sustaining, or passing down wealth that's being made available immediately to those who qualify. We want to ensure that all members of our community that are affected have access to affordable and quality housing options at all income levels. We want to prioritize Black San Franciscans in the local growth industries that are constantly coming into San Francisco. We want to support Black entrepreneurs and ensure that Black-owned businesses thrive in San Francisco. In the area of education, we would like the city to acknowledge the harm done to past generations of Black students in San Francisco and take steps to prevent future harms. Invest in the educational infrastructure to ensure that all SFUSD students have equitable access to quality schools, buildings, and resources. We would like the creation of an Afrocentric school that elevates and promotes Black history and culture, offering students a foundation of the joy and excellence and the knowledge of self that they so deserve. And we would like to create pathways for Black students to pursue both traditional and non-traditional educational opportunities to develop the skills relevant and necessary to be in San Francisco.
In the area of health, we want to acknowledge the insult, assault, and intergenerational harm caused by the city and county of San Francisco as it relates to mental, physical, and environmental health of Black San Franciscans. Address and reduce health disparities by investing in structural, long-term solutions to the social determinants of health. to create safer public spaces through improvements to the built environment, to address persistent disparities in environmental and community health, and then to reduce the ongoing burden of stress disparately endured by Black San Franciscans, and finally in the area of health, not finally, but there's a whole host of free mental health for Black people. In the area of policy, address the historical and existing state policies that have disproportionately harmed San Franciscans, i.e. Prop 209, enforce existing local policies that are ostensibly designed to address historical harms, i.e. the slavery era disclosure ordinance, which we referenced earlier, and then create a nonpartisan body and or a new city agency to ensure this.
I'm Amos Brown. And I want to say at the outset, an old preacher once said, if you don't toot your own horn, there won't be any horn toot. Not to be egocentric, but to say, there comes a point in time when we ought to be truthful to history. And it was the NAACP, the National Association for the Advantage of the Colored People, that stood before this august body, 2019, on July the 30th, and presented the measures